and that is that Martin Luther King was shot and was killed tonight in Memphis.
We back at it, still messing with the mathematics. The truth about Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, scripted legacy, and how they connect together. I will be breaking down both of these characters' life, career, and suspect legacy. I'll be focusing primarily on Martin Luther King more than Malcolm X in this part 1 series. But still, I will touch bases on both guys overall in 2 videos. I'll be using Gematria throughout this video from time to time. Gematria is a cryptograph in the form of a word whose letters have the numerical values of a word taken as the hidden meaning. Basically, connecting letters with numbers, because that's how the world is operated, off letters and numbers. The dominant society uses this method in practice all the time to communicate and execute their agenda. For starters, Martin Luther King was not his birth name. Michael Lewis King is his real name. Little do people know that legally he lived his entire life by the name Michael King. See, in 1934, his father had changed both he and his son's name to Martin after being inspired by the real Martin Luther from Germany. By the way, most celebrities and public figures' names, birthplace, age, and birth date are changed, family. They change these people identities and place them right in front of you to be the next star or hero for the manipulated minds and the programmed people who are interested. Also, most celebrities, parents, or family members were either preachers, priests, or in the army of some sort. Sports organizations and associations of entertainment also practice this same formula. And let's not forget the Boule fraternities as well. So basically what I'm saying is that most of these celebrities or public figures are born into the positions. Then they're placed in a higher position through nepotism. And the rules and code they live by is under the influence of the Masons, which is dominated by the New World Order. Now, MLK was assassinated on the 95th day of 1968, which is April 4th, with the date numerology of 95. 4 plus 4 plus 19 plus 68 equals 95. Now, like I said just a minute ago, he and his father shared the name Martin Luther, who his father got inspired by the real Martin Luther, who was the leader of the Protestant Reformation. The real Martin Luther wrote the 95 Theses. Can't make this stuff up. And then Martin Luther King gets assassinated on the 95th day of the year. That's not a coincidence, family. Not at all. Quick side note. Let's connect time to the occult. Now, Saturn equals 93. Just like the sun is about 93 million miles in distance from Earth. These are 2 objects in the sky that connect time to the occult, along with the moon as well. But Saturn equals 93. Let's stick with Saturn right now. And the sun is 93 million miles in distance. Now, Malcolm X equals 93. And also 42, which is a common number associated with black people. The name Martin equals 42, just like the name Malcolm X equals 42, along with Tuskegee, Jesuit, in Arizona. Slavery, as well as Jackie, as in Jackie Robinson, equals 42. And Jackie Robinson even wore the number 42, by the way. It's not a coincidence. Now, even the Martin show, his apartment number was 42, which is not another coincidence. All this stuff has been scripted, and we didn't know. Even as a child, we never paid attention to the numbers like that. But looking back on it now, it's like, wow, they've been playing this game a long time, ladies and gentlemen. But let's stick to this 93 right now. I just want you guys to understand the number 42, which is very relevant with black people. Malcolm X, once again, equals 42, but it also equals 93, right? And so does Martin Luther King Jr. equals 93 as well. Just like the Order of Illuminati also equals 93. And remember, those two only met one time in history. They met on March 26 in 64 with the date numerology of 93 once again. 3 plus 26 plus 64 equals 93. We can also break it down in a different way. They met on 3/26, 3 plus 26 plus 6 plus 4 equals 39. The exact reverse of 93, right? Well, they both died at the age of 39, family.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
So they both died at the age of 39. They both were so-called activists in the civil rights movement. They both sync very well together in Gematria. They both got their birth names changed. Malcolm X's birth name was Malcolm Little, and then later changed again to Malik El Shabazz. They both were given names that equal 93, with them dying at the age of 39. Now, they both died at the age of 39, right? Just like Arizona equaled 42 earlier, right? Arizona also equals 39. Now, what was the last state to recognize MLK Day? There's like 5 states, but there was one state that was really memorable that did not want to acknowledge Martin Luther King Day, and it was Arizona. Arizona. So that's not a coincidence. Now I'm finna explain a little bit more of why these are not coincidences or conspiracies. Public Enemy, remember, Public Enemy, the group, in 1991, they had an album called Apocalypse 91, The Enemy Strikes Black. They released the song By the Time I Get to Arizona, and that album and song came out in 91. Just like Phoenix equals 91. That song was basically like he was going to Phoenix, Arizona, because he was upset that Arizona was the last state to recognize Martin Luther King Jr. Day. He was basically iterating that the state was also racist not to recognize that particular day. Now, in relations to Public Enemy in Arizona, Public Enemy also put out another album in 2020 called What You're Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down. And what's in the background? Monument Valley, Arizona. And what's Arizona's birthday? Valentine's Day. And what happened on Valentine's Day, family? The power grid that went down all over the nation. Houston was out of power for a week with the coldest weather they ever had on record. Portland, Oregon was out of power for about 2 weeks as well. Now, all of this stuff, though, overall, you're watching are rituals by the dominant society, aka the Jesuits. All you seeing is ultimate symbolism, sacrifices, astrology, and gematria all in one. Don't forget I said rituals, family. Now, MLK died on April 4th, which is 4-4, in a shooting, right? Which equals 44. He's also from Georgia, right? Which equals 44. And check this out. This is an interesting one. Thomas Hagen also equals 44. And some people that's not in touch with history may say, well, who is Thomas Hagen? Thomas Hagen is one of the 3 men who assassinated Malcolm X, so they say. And he ended up doing 44 years, so they say. He just so happened to get 44 years, ladies and gentlemen. So the day Malcolm X was killed was on February 21st, 1965. 2/21, 1965. So let's break that down. 2 plus 21 plus 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 5, family, equals 44. And in Gematria, kill and execution equals 44. And I just want to throw in that Barack Obama, another guy whose name was switched as well to fit the Gematria, he just so happened to be, he's another character, by the way, as well. But he just so happened to be the 44th president. I find it interesting, though, that MLK just popped up out of nowhere after finishing school to quickly become elected as president of the Montgomery Improvement Association in 1955, with Edgar Nixon serving as treasurer. Martin Luther King got his PhD through Boston University the summer of 1955. By December of that year, he was already elected president of the MIA over Edgar Nixon. Martin Luther King had only been back in Montgomery for a small amount of months. To be honest, there are a lot of red flags in MLK's early bio. Now check this out. Martin Luther King got his bachelor's degree in sociology in 1948 at the age of 19. So he got his BA in 4 years, or at least it took approximately 4 years, so they say. He got his Bachelor of Divinity degree, that's 3 years tops, right? And he got his PhD, which took 5 to 6 years. And he did all this by the time he was 26 years old. So that would mean he would have had to be 13 or 14, possibly 15 years old when he started college. His bio has some question marks in it because his bio was scripted by some people who control the strings that you want pulled. You know what puppet masters I'm talking about, family.
I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this.
It was wrote too perfectly and sounded too privileged for a black man under a system of white supremacy, especially around that time where it was more overt racism compared to now where it's more structured and engraved in laws. Even in his first TV appearance in 1955, he seems to be struggling to read something he supposedly wrote. Looks like he's having a little trouble dialoguing the truth in his report. Look at his eyes and listen to his speech pattern as it seems like he's reading a script or something, but having a difficult time doing it.
That the seating arrangement would be changed to a first-come, first-served basis. That Negro passengers would seat from the rear to the front of the bus and the white passengers from the front to the rear, with no reserved seats for any race. That Negro bus drivers would be employed, particularly on predominantly Negro lines. Decided not to ride the buses in Montgomery until we received some justice and until we get a hearing, even if it takes a year.
Now, they say Martin Luther King and the other founders of the SCLC were inspired by Billy Graham. But you have to ask yourself, why would these guys be inspired by Billy Graham? Billy Graham, who started his crusades in 1947, year one of the who?
It's the principle of the whole thing. It's principalities in this.
I don't got to say their name. Y'all see it. That's not a coincidence, family. He started the same year that they started. We were told that Billy Graham befriended Martin Luther King after he attended one of Graham's crusades in New York in 1957. But that's a red flag as well. We were taught that Martin Luther King Jr. was a very progressive individual. So why or what would MLK have in common with a suspected white supremacist in Billy Graham, who wasn't progressive at all, by the way? Let's get to know Graham. Graham attended Bob Jones University. It was founded by a guy who never attended college and was opened in Panama City, Florida, with 88 students. Looked like another CIA production, if you ask me. Panama City is the home of Tyndall Air Force Base, which includes the Navy supported activity. Other than that, there's no real intangible reason for Jones to have opened a school there. He had no prior connections to Florida, according to my research. Bob Jones University ended up moving to Greenville, South Carolina in 1947. Just like who? So conveniently, Donaldson Air Force Base just so happened to be south of Greenfield, by the way. Bob Jones University wouldn't admit blacks until 1975, but then started admitting them, but only if they were married already. Also, the IRS told them that they couldn't keep their tax-exempt status. This was in response to Runyon v. McCrary, which prohibited racial discrimination in private schools. Now, although Bob Jones University began admitting black students, they didn't allow them to date whites. The IRS revoked their tax status, and the case went to the Supreme Court under Bob Jones University versus the divided states. You know, United, aka divided states. They lost and had to pay $1 million back in taxes, though. They kept this interracial dating rule until the year 2000. So you have to ask yourself once again, do this really seem like the kind of people Martin Luther King would be hanging out with?
No.
They tried to sell Billy Graham as a promoter of civil rights, but that's not the case. In the time of MLK status, Graham preached to segregated audiences and had no problem with it. Martin Luther King, who inhibited progress, was seeming to promote it. MLK movement was very different than Graham's on the surface, but its end game was the same. Protecting the vested interests of the dominant society by preventing, stalling, or misdirecting any meaningful change. You know, basically just a lot of babble from both guys. Billy Graham and Martin Luther King, both of their bios and careers in general are filled with numerology points and factors. Like, for instance, he gave his first sermon in 1947. Yeah. Like who in 1947? Do I need to fill in the blank for you guys?
No.
You know who the puppet masters are. The CIA wrote his whole bio, as well as organized and operated his career. See, all these civil rights activist leaders and communist organizations were fake, in my opinion. I believe MLK, honestly, was an agent, just like the rest of these people in these pictures. While they were putting on a front and faking and controlling the communist project, MLK was faking and controlling the civil rights project as well. The whole civil rights movement looked too organized and managed. It seemed like a scripted film or movie, more than an organic, natural, authentic movement. Just like the Rosa Parks incident, which is another character who has a lot of numerology connected to her as well. Parks was not the first black woman to give up her seat. They also pretty much admitted that the incident was 100% staged. Martin Luther King was close friends with a guy named Stanley Levison, Jewish attorney from New York, who helped MLK write some of his notable speeches. And he also was Martin Luther King's advisor. Levison went to Columbia and the New School. The New School was founded and funded by a guy named Hiram Holly, which is Jewish, and the Rockefeller Foundation, which is Jewish. The New School is another one of the premier propaganda CIA academies in the world. Levison was a leader of the American Jewish Congress and had also been a leader of the Communist Party. He has no ancestry or genealogy posted. Levison definitely has that agent vibe and look to him. He probably was head of the CIA cubicle. He also helped push MLK's image as far as their agenda was concerned. Now, as far as the assassination of MLK and him dying at the Lorraine Hotel, if someone was to ask me, do I believe is that the way he died? My answer would be no. Everything just looks suspect, in my opinion, as far as his death. There are just too many question marks about the way he died, the person who supposedly killed him. By the way, speaking on the person who the supposed assassin, the dude with 3 first names, James Earl Ray, he was arrested on June 13th. 13, right? Now, what I must say about this is, for starters, he supposed to supposedly have broke out of jail and got caught again. He got rearrested on June 13th. All this stuff is suspect. But anyhow, he got arrested on June 13th, the day leaving 201 days in the year remaining, just like the Jesuit order, equaling 201. And remember, the Jesuits control the Masons, by the way, for people who don't understand what's going on, the levels to this. See, we all have been fooled by our so-called leaders and heroes, even our favorite entertainers also. None of them are who we think they were. They are all actors and characters sent in to control us, manipulate us, and keep us programmed and distracted. As far as civil rights, you've been programmed to celebrate symbolism and celebrate a huge lack of progress. You are assured that things are getting better, but clearly it's the same or it's gotten worse. See, blacks see people like Oprah, Michael Jordan, Barack Obama, LeBron James, or Jay-Z and think a lot has changed and improved. But they're meaningless because they're boule and they're actors and also puppets for the dominant society. They have done absolutely nothing intangible to help black people as far as a resource or etc. Now, lastly, they apparently named the holiday after the wrong person, once again, as usual, right? They should have picked a real black leader instead of this who misdirected the civil rights movement. It's the same thing with Rosa Parks, once again. She was a scripted, propped up white actor who played her role in the dismantle of a black historic movement that would have liberated us if successful. None of these actors are heroes to me. They've always pushed these biracial actors, once again, in front of us pretending to be black. And blacks should look at this as an insult. This year, on April 4th, 2023, will be MLK's 55th year death anniversary. Just like what? The Boule, equaling 55. But that's all I have for you, family. This is only part one to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X scripted connection. Part two will be more focused on Malcolm X. I'm going to go into more detail about his journey and the true breakdown of his life. I'm not done with the King family either yet. There's more on his family and him as well. This is the Truth and Dialogue Report. Please remember that the numbers don't lie. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch y'all on the next vibe. 100.
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Men die, women die, numbers don't. What you think I'm trying to hit my number for? I said, what you think I'm trying to hit my number for? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Men die, women die, numbers don't. What you think I'm trying to hit my number for?
It's a secret society. All we ask is trust.